Hello, beautiful people. This is Sammy from Not Your Average Club, a safe place we come. We talk all things mental health, spirituality, quite a bit of tarot. I'm sitting out by the pool at my mom's house, and I'm thinking about my day. I've spent the last couple of days with my kids and my mom's. It's been beautiful. It's been wonderful. They returned back to their dad's today to spend a couple days with him, and then they'll be back with me on Wednesday. But I was thinking about the term front porch wisdom. You ever heard that saying, like, oh, they have like back porch, like front porch wisdom? You know, like you see in the South a lot of time, you see like elderly folks like sitting in like a porch swing or like a rocking chair on their front porch with like a glass of sweet tea or something. And a lot of times you'll see younger people like sitting on the front porch, and they'll just share their stories of like, you know, real life experience, you know? Do you know where that term comes from? You know, back porch or front porch wisdom? You know where that comes from? It comes from an old folk magic belief that that if you have an answer, that spirit will give it to you if you just go sit out on the front porch, like get into a meditative state, like people watch or watch the cars drive by. Or in my case right now, we don't really have a porch, but right behind my parents' house there's like a screened in area, and then there's this like pool. You just sit out in nature and you get quiet. It's meditation, right? And basically what that's saying is like you get still, you get alone with spirit or alone with God, you get nature, get in that meditative state, and you'll get the answers that you need. I think it's a sweet reminder. I think people in the South do it kind of naturally, because we get alone, we get outside a lot. We mow our grass, or we plow our fields, or we sit on our front porch because the weather's nice with a glass of lemonade or tea, and we just sit and sunbathe. Well, I've had a lot of questions on my mind here recently, and over the last couple of weeks, I shared in my last video that I've been feeling called to a season of singleness, to take some time to reflect and to really sit with the information and the downloads I've been getting over the last 3 years since my spiritual awakening. And like I've been through the school of hard knocks, and now it's time to like reflect on what all I've learned. And last night I was thinking of a sermon that Miss Brenda, which is the pastor of the church that I used to go to's wife, Miss Brenda one time shared a sermon. I think it was like on Mother's Day or something a couple years back, and she talked about in biblical times, a lot of times they would build an altar, and whenever something significant would happen, they'd build an altar so they could go back to that altar when they needed to remember, right? Like whenever there was a big battle that happened or a significant life event, they would build an altar so they'd have a place of remembrance to go back to. And the point of her lesson all these years ago was that when you find yourself losing your way, go back to the altar, go back to what you were doing, who you were surrounding yourself with when you got lost, right? And for whatever reason, that really, like that message, I just remembered it randomly yesterday. Nobody was talking about church or anything. I just remembered that sermon yesterday. And I was thinking about how 9 years ago I met Dakota, right? And since meeting Dakota, I feel like I don't remember who I was before him, and maybe I'm not supposed to be that person anymore. Maybe that's a good thing, right? But here recently I've been feeling quite directionless. I've been feeling quite lost, you know? And I remembered that sermon, and I was thinking about, well, when I met him, what was I doing, right? Like, go back to the altar, go back to the place you spent the most time, the people you surround yourself with, so you can remember, you know? And as you guys know on this channel, I don't really go to church anymore. I was wounded by the church. I had a lot of things that happened at the church, a lot of people that judged me, and so on and so forth. So I don't really go to church anymore. I still deeply love God, and I genuinely believe that, like, when I do tarot, it's with the assistance of God, of the Holy Spirit, and of the angels. But I don't go to church anymore unless it's like a holiday or a special event that my like family wants me to join with. But I decided yesterday that I was going to go to church. You know, my mom didn't go to church this morning, neither did my little sister, but my dad did. My stepdad, he volunteers at the church all the time. He works in the parking lot and stuff. He's like a great man of faith. I love him. God bless him. He's wonderful. But he went to church this morning. He wasn't expecting me to go because they didn't go, so he left without me. But I decided I wanted to go, so I took my mom's car and I went to church, took the girls with me. And on the way there, I was kind of nervous because it's been a couple of years since I've gone just on a regular Sunday. And I'll be honest, the reason I don't go back is because a lot of the people that go to church there, they gossip about me. They don't understand what I'm doing on this channel. A lot of them think that tarot is demonic, and I've been heavily judged since getting together with Dakota, and then especially in the last couple of years doing tarot. I've been heavily judged, but not by everybody, but just by, you know, some people that I valued their opinions at one point in time. So I was nervous going to church today. So on the way there, I prayed. I was like, you know, Spirit, God, the universe, the divine, whatever you want to be called, I have faith in you, and I have faith that you can show up in the most unlikely ways. I feel called to go back to church today because when I met Dakota, I was singing on the worship team at Evangel. I was volunteering in the nurseries all the time. I was going to church every Sunday, every Wednesday, every Friday. I loved going to church when I met Dakota. So I was feeling called, like, just go back to church, just see how you feel, how you've grown, how you've shifted. See if it still resonates with you. See if that's where you want to be, you know, no pressure. Just go back to the altar, like Miss Brenda said in that sermon so many years ago. So I did. Tell me why the very first sentence of the very first song they're playing during worship is I'm not moving back. I'm not moving back. I'm moving ahead. I'm moving forward. And then it was like song after song after song resonated. And then the very first announcement that they make in church, before the sermon starts, before any of that, the very first announcement that they made was about a Mommy and Me Tea Day for Mother's Day in May. And literally the thing that I've been stressing out about is this custody battle, and like whether or not I'm gonna lose custody of my kids and all this, that, and the other. And what's it's the first two messages is I'm not going back, I'm moving ahead, and then a mommy and me thing. And I felt genuinely in my spirit that was confirmation that I was at the right place at the right time, that I'm making the right decisions, not just to go to church, but to tough it out and live with my mom for the next 5 weeks, because I love my mom to death, and I'm so grateful that she allowed me to stay with her until Gianna gets out of school. But my mom and I have a very rocky relationship. Living here is not easy. We don't always get along. We don't see eye to eye. Our communication styles are wildly different. The way we think is dramatically different. And, you know, my mom and I feel that it doesn't matter what I do, I'm constantly disappointing her. Even something as simple as, like, I'm cleaning the house and I decide to take out the trash, and she just thinks that the dishes are more important, you know, so on and so forth. Like, it's not always big stuff, but like we just think so differently. Like the things we prioritize are just very different. The way we articulate things, I say exactly what I mean. You don't have to read between the lines with me. My mom is somebody where you kind of have to read between the lines with her. She almost expects you to know her, understand her, so you should know what she meant, you know? So a lot of times I will ask her like clarification questions, like, because she's not detailed enough for my understanding. I'm autistic. I'm like, okay, well, like, you said do such and such, do you mean do this, you know? And she'll get irritated. She'll be like, oh my God, you're a fucking adult. Like, I said what I said, just make it happen. You know, like, she's very, you know, like, I don't know. But anyways, so this season that I've been called to here recently is difficult. It's really difficult. It's really humbling. It is blessed, and I am so grateful. But I've have a lot of questions, and they're not easily found. You know, you can't find them in a book. You can't find them, you know, you can't really go to a lawyer to get the answer to all of my questions right now. You can't really go to a professor or like a book or like an expert, right? This is a season that's calling me to faith, you know, blind faith. And guess what Pastor Levon talked about this morning at church? He was talking about a legacy of faith. He's been doing this legacy series, and like he did like a legacy of, you know, like all these different topics throughout the last couple of weeks. I haven't been there, so I showed up on a legacy of faith, and he was talking about how when you're wounded in church, ironically, which is funny, he's like, when you're wounded in church, you're not wounded because God failed you. You're wounded because people failed you. He's like, your faith was displaced. It was put in the wrong thing. And that was really important for me to hear, because like, I think the last couple of years, in a way, I had been angry at God, but I wasn't conscious of it, because I still very much so believe in God, and I still work with God on a daily basis when I do tarot. I pray all the time. Like, I haven't completely lost faith in God. But I think in a way I was angry at God because a lot of my wounding, a lot of, you know, the abuse that I've encountered in the last couple of years happened at church. And I needed that little bit of like back porch wisdom this morning. So like, I don't know, here's your friendly reminder that like, sometimes it can't be found in a book. Sometimes it can't be given to you expert advice. Sometimes you just need back porch wisdom. Good old sit down with your grandparents. Good old random singular phrase at church or in a sermon or in a YouTube video. Sometimes that's where the most growth is found. So I love you guys. Thank you.